Welcome to Speed Vector, the podcast dedicated to the art, risk, and obsession of speed flying. I'm your host, Victor Garcia, speed flyer, skydiver, cinematographer, Navy veteran, and full-time gravity junkie. Every week, we dive into the lines we fly, the gear we trust, and the stories that push us past the ridge and into the void. Whether you're just learning to launch or chasing the perfect line, this is where speed flyers come to connect, learn, and stoke the fire. This is Speed Vector.
I didn't want to bring it up during the show just to keep the mood light and happy, but unfortunately our community has taken a major hit once again this week with the tragic loss of Carl Wayseth. It's all over Instagram now. I'm not spilling the beans, but I'm not going to go into details here. It was not flying related, but if you've been around the sport at all, even if you don't know his name, you've seen clips of him. You have certainly, if you're in the U.S., probably bought a wing from him or bought anything Speedfly related. If you bought something online on speedfly.com, you most likely have had contact with Carl. I didn't know him in person, but I have had a number of conversations with him, both over the phone and in text form. And I can say with all honesty that he was a very, very, very nice guy to me. He took the time to steer me in the right direction, when I was newer to the sport and was looking to buy a wing. And he, most recently, sent me a couple things in the mail as of like a month ago. And, pretty much all I can say about this is, check in with your buddies, check in with yourself, check in with your loved ones and friends, and check in with your friend's friend, on launch, and, give your buddy a hug. Because you just don't know what people are going through internally. And, the unfortunate truth of life is that it eventually ends in death, and that's dark, but it's true. But when it comes too soon, it's always tragic. Even when it's not too soon, it's tragic. So just take the time to give your buddy a hug. Thanks again for being here, guys. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Speed Vector podcast. This is episode number 32. Happy to be back. It's been a whole month. It's crazy. Time flies. I'm so sorry. My goal is to put out an episode a week. Obviously, I don't think I've done that since the beginning, maybe twice. And honestly, it's just because it's difficult. It's hard to get people on. It's hard to arrange the time and then sit down and have a meaningful conversation. It takes time. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for tuning in. I was really stoked on episode 31 with Joey, and I am equally stoked with episode 32 with my guest, Jess King. Jess has a very storied career in aviation, and although she's pretty new to speed flying within the last 12 calendar months or so, she has a depth of knowledge and understanding of aviation and weather and flying in terrain at high speed and making split-second decisions that I don't think anybody other than F-18 pilots in the Navy could have. Just so happens that Jess flies a variant of the F-18 Super Hornet known as the Growler, which is essentially the same thing, although different in a lot of ways, which we did not get into because this is not a military aviation podcast, although it was quite hard for me in the beginning of this to not just continue diving down the rabbit hole of strapping God knows how many thousands of pounds of thrust on your back and ripping just with your literal hair on fire. I mean, it's got to be the coolest job in the world. Jess is also a captain for Delta Airlines, which is super cool also. Both equally as impressive. And she does it simultaneously. U.S. Navy Reserves and Delta captain. She, because of that, has the opportunity to travel quite a bit. Obviously, it's part of her job. Some would say it is her job. And because of that, she gets to fly a lot of cool places with a lot of cool people. So don't discredit the lack of seat time she has in a speed flying harness, because I will tell you that this woman has knowledge and insight well beyond her years within the speed flying world. Don't worry, we did not dive into how to proximity roll a speed wing in this episode. So if that's what you're looking for, maybe down the line with somebody else. But a lot of meaningful stuff was said, and I think there's a lot to be gained from this. So I hope that you all enjoy it as much as I did, because I enjoyed the hell out of it. Thanks again for being here. Remember to drop me a DM on the interwebs if you or someone that you know might be a good fit to come on the show. Just let me know. I got an open door. Worst you hear is no thanks. Best you hear is hell yeah. The decision is yours. Red pill, blue pill, and stuff. Anyway, let's get to it. Here is Jess King, episode 32. Like hit record right when we came on, but then I realized that there was actually some stuff I needed to like say before recording, and then I would go back and post and like cut it out, and it was just kind of a pain. So now I do all that and then hit record, and it seems to be a little bit more streamlined. But I also don't edit this at all, so there's that.
Oh wow, okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Unless there's something that, you know, people want edited, which it's only happened once. But anyway, Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to get the invite.
Oh yeah, no, of course. No, I'm always like, I've said this before, but not everybody is Joey Innes, right? And that's okay. Like the show isn't about necessarily like having the best pilots in the world come on and talk technicalities. It's also about having people on like yourself and a bunch of other people I've had on that like have X amount of time in the sport and X amount of experience, and like those experiences and that time counts for something, because we all have experiences and it's a young sport, and you know, a lot of people are young in it. Like there's only a handful of people in the world that are a decade deep, you know, I mean, maybe more than a handful, but you know what I mean? It's a small number, relatively speaking. So yeah, I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm pretty new, so I was surprised and a bit hesitant at first, since I'm, you know, not necessarily one of the best out there, but I'm happy to give my perspective from a beginner, and hopefully get some other you know, beginners and new people to get into the sport and kind of tell my story. So
Right on. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And that's the thing. So I forget when or how, but I came across your page on Instagram, which is, you know, it's 2026. Most people are, you know, connecting via social media. And I remember being like, wow, like this lady likes to fly. Like you really like to fly. I think you've had a long career, you know, of flying, and we'll definitely dive into all that. I'm curious, where did your love or even just your interest in aviation begin? Were you introduced at a young age, or how did that go?
no, I was it was kind of different for me. I mean, a lot of people I fly with on the pilot side of airplanes, I guess I should say airplane pilot side. A lot of them do start young, you know, and start with parents who fly, and start at 3 years old going to watch the Blue Angels, and then they're hooked, and that's it from there. But I started later, not until my freshman year of college, and I hated what I was studying in school, and all my other plans weren't working out as a 18-year-old. So I had a buddy who wanted to be a fighter pilot, and he was in like the Navy Reserves or something like that. And it's like, oh, I never thought about that as a job. That would be pretty rad. And super long story short, I just applied for the ROTC scholarship, and went to college and got my degree in flying because I wanted to make sure I actually liked to fly before committing now 15 years of my life to the Navy. And yeah, I was hooked from the get go. I never flew in anything smaller than in an airliner until I was flying myself in little Piper Archer back in school. So I think that was the moment I was hooked. And everybody's got their times and places, and that was it for me.
That's super cool. What school did you go to?
I got my degree from Westminster, which is this small school here in Utah in Salt Lake City. They used to have a little flight program. It was kind of like the Embry-Riddle flight program where you get your degree in flying, and then you also go out to the airport and get all your pilot's licenses through that. And then once I graduated, I commissioned with the Navy and went to flight school with the Navy.
That's cool. I had a brief 1.5 year stint at West Mini. You're in
Oh, no way.
your house, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a small world.
Yeah, and I actually went to school for aviation in Jacksonville, Florida, similar to Embry-Riddle. I just didn't want to go like
Oh,
full Embry-Riddle. They didn't have a lacrosse team, and I was trying to play Division I lacrosse, so I went to JU, which had it like they were like the second year D1, and didn't like the culture. Anyways, long story, but and I kind of semi pseudo failed out of the aviation program at JU. I'm stick and rudder all day. I hated the books. Like the books were not my forte. I was more into like partying and going to lacrosse practice and all that. So yeah, it's just like a kind of a clash of cultures. But yeah, I understand the path that you took. That's cool. Almost got talked into an ROTC at JU, which probably would have changed my trajectory as far as like how long it took me to graduate college. It was about 12 and a half years, but with like
wow. Yeah, that would have forced you to go a little quicker, I think.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So I found myself in Salt Lake, and then I went to Slick which is the community college for a year, and then my girlfriend at the time was going to Westminster, so I'm like, oh, I'll try it out, and I like literally did. I don't even think it was a year and a half. It might have been just a year, so two semesters, and then I just basically dropped out and joined the Navy after that, pretty much. So yeah, that's
That's
crazy.
awesome.
Yeah, interesting
Yeah,
parallels there. So
definitely.
you
Because Westminster only has, for most people probably have never heard of it. It's like they have like 2,500 students, I think, or something at Westminster. So for us both to have gone there is pretty
It's
bizarre.
it's pretty wild. Yeah, have you I mean, I'm assuming you've seen Johnny Tsunami, the old Disney movie?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was filmed at Westminster. Did you
No
know that?
way.
Yeah, it was.
How
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, like, he, like, moves to I think it was, like, Aspen or something, and, of course, they couldn't have just said, like, Salt Lake City. They said Aspen. Who knows why. But, anyway, there's a shot, like, of him walking into the school, and it's, like, the front like, the main entrance of Westminster. I forget, like, what the building's called. It's been a long time since I've been there, but, yeah, that was West Mini. I was like and that
Oh,
was one
that's
of my
cool.
favorite
I did
movies
not know.
growing up, so I was like, "Oh, this is a
Yeah,
cool full circle moment from my childhood, I guess," but
yeah, yeah. No kidding.
yeah,
That's
so
wild.
you went in ROTC, and for people that don't understand, like, how difficult it is. Well, okay, first of all, I'm getting a little ahead here, but you fly F-18s, which is, like, in my opinion, probably the most badass thing that you can fly in the world. I mean, yes, F-22, F-35, very cool. But like as far as like actually piloting goes, just obviously I haven't been in either in any of those airframes, but I have a really good friend who flew F-18s, and then I've known people that fly F-35s, and they're all there's obviously a little bit of a friendly rivalry between them, but it sounds to me like landing a carrier at night in high seas is probably the most insane thing you can do. And I don't think F-35s do that, and we don't have to go into it, but I'm just saying, like, it's pretty badass. Um, and with all that being said, it's really, really hard to get in that seat. So I'm curious, like, did you know you wanted F-18s and then you like worked your tail off and got there, or did it just happen? Was it a combination? How did you find yourself in that cockpit?
Yeah, so I fly just because my F-18 buddies, if they are ever listening to this, are gonna give me crap for it if I don't correct it. But I fly the Growlers, so it's the EA-18G. So um, they took an F-18 and put some electronic attack equipment on it, and I guess you could say it's like the newest version of the F-18 with electronic attack capability. So it's yeah, the flight school process. I mean, I could talk forever about that, but I like to say it's a combination of a lot of luck and a little bit of skill. It's and I try to tell young people that, want to go and fly tactical jets, both, Air Force and Navy. You could have the best grades in class, be the coolest person ever to hang out with, and if the Navy or the Air Force doesn't need a fighter pilot that day and they need a helicopter pilot, guess what you're doing? You're going to fly helicopters or drones or, whatever. Not to say those are bad things, but um, you may sign up thinking you're going to do one thing and then do the other. So I feel like my timing was really good. I did get really lucky. I worked really hard. Absolutely. I think anybody in this field does work hard. It's a challenging job, and yeah, it comes with a lot of, like you said, a lot of challenges. Landing on a moving postage stamp at night and weather is probably one of the scariest things I'd say I've done maybe ever. And it's it's great. It's the best job in the world, and I haven't regretted a day of it. I instruct now in the reserves, and I really do love it. It's very rewarding. It's awesome. And as far as the actual platform, kind of how it works is you go through your beginning phase of flight school, and they kind of have different moments where they separate people out based off of your scores and what they need and the platforms available. And when I finished or was getting close to being done, all we had was F-18s, and the Growler was still very new, and I knew nothing about the Growler at all. I knew it was a type of an F-18, and it's just a really small community, and they're like, well, here's your dream sheet. Put down what you want. You can either go to Lemoore, California, Virginia Beach / Oceana, Virginia, or Whidbey Island, Washington. And I've been skiing my whole life, hence Salt Lake City and the speed riding. And I'm like, why would anybody pick anything other than Washington? That sounds like a dream. So that's where I went, and I was fortunate enough to be stationed there really my whole career, outside of being on the carrier. So yeah, it's been awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah, right on. Yeah, I see. I ski patrol up at White Pass in Washington, and I hear I hear you guys up, or I guess you're not there anymore. But I hear fast movers flying like in the terrain up there all the time, and I've only ever seen it with my eyes once, but I always hear them, and I'm like, God, that'd be so fun. That's like the spot. This is like the place to do it. I mean, it's just vast wilderness and big mountains, and Mount Rainier's right there, and it's just yeah, that's got to be it's got to be something else. The adrenaline you must feel too landing on a carrier at night, like you said, and weather has got to be nuts. I I realize this is a speed flying podcast. I understand that, but I can't help but like nerd out on this a little bit just because it's pretty rare that you get to talk to someone that that's in your position that flies the growler and um yeah, I don't know, it's cool. You also fly for Delta, did I get that right?
I do, yeah. Yeah, and it's great to talk about with it being a speed flying podcast, talking about the low levels, because it is very similar in a lot of ways, and definitely correlates to thinking fast and moving fast and being close to terrain. So it absolutely parallels each other. And yeah, I do fly for Delta as well. So that's my adult job, my more full time job, and the reserves is just my fun job on the side. So yeah, yeah, I do a bit of both.
What a dream. What a cool position to be in. That's are there a lot of active reserve fighter pilots that are also flying in the airlines? I don't know if it's like a number that you would know, but I mean, do you come across people like that?
Yeah, it's I have no idea what the number is. I'd say just flying at Delta, I've been flying for them for about 4.5 years now, and it's about it's about 50-50 of military versus someone who came from like the regional route or corporate aviation or something along those lines. But as far as like tactical jets, the fighter side of things, gosh, yeah, I've only flown with I think two F-18 guys, and they were retired, not in anymore. And the rest have been Air Force, and there's a couple that still do the reserve gig, but it's a challenge because you have to get a certain hourly requirement every year, and our flights are only an hour, hour and a half at a time. So it's a big commitment. I mean, I say Delta's my full time job, but sometimes it feels like the Navy job can be full time, depending on what's going on. So
I bet.
yeah.
I bet. That's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, what a cool spot, man. That's probably the dream for a lot of people. I would imagine. I mean, shoot, if I could rewind the clock, I probably would have tried to do something similar because being on the ground's cool, but flying is pretty nice. It's kind of cool to be in the air and be removed from everything from a military standpoint. I'm talking, but um, is it weird? Okay, I promise you, I'm going to wrap up these questions relatively soon. I can't help but ask. Is it weird going from a growler to the airframe that you fly at Delta and back? Like, is that
Yeah, it's so different. I At first I was a bit worried about it, but it's so different. I mean, I tell people I might as well be flying like a helicopter versus an airplane.
yeah,
It's we I think the hardest and weirdest part is I moved over to the left seat at Delta, so I'm a captain, and
congrats.
the stick is on the left side, so you're flying with your left hand, but in the Navy, I fly with my right hand.
Right.
So if I've been flying for the Navy for a while, then I go to fly for Delta. I'm like, oh, this feels kind of weird. And then with the Navy, we don't flare when we land, and at all. We fly at a specific angle of attack because of our hook point angle and all that nerdy stuff. And so we hit the ground at 800,000 feet per minute, as whereas Delta, you try to obviously make it as smooth as possible. So that took some getting used to at first, and I still have my good Navy landings, but I've been so disappointed that I haven't had, out of all of my very firm but safe landings at Delta, I haven't had one passenger come up and say, "Oh, you must be a Navy pilot," so I could be like, "Oh,
Oh,
sure am." Like, thanks.
well,
Like, no one said that yet. How is this possible? Um,
that's funny.
but yeah, it is very different. With Delta, we have two pilots in the cockpit, so that took some getting used to at first because you'll have really some at certain points of flight two different people on the controls, which was really odd for me. Where you'll have the captain on the throttles and the pilot flying could be the first officer on the stick, so it's two different people on control surfaces, and I just thought that was the craziest thing ever when I joined, but you get used to it, it's all muscle memory, so
Sure. Wow. Yeah, so
yeah.
I didn't realize that instead of a yoke, it's a stick. Is it set up like a Cirrus, or it's like that kind of weird stick configuration that you like your arm is essentially like resting on like an armrest and then the stick is just beyond that, or is it different?
Yeah, 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 we have armrests, and yeah, it's just a stick like on the side, kind of on the side console of the airplane.
Interesting.
Um, and yeah, so it's a little bit different than having it in the middle, kind of between your legs like we do in the
Right.
Navy. But
Sure.
there's a lot of Air Force jets with a stick on the side like that. So I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe it's
it's
not
the
as weird for those guys to
sure.
transition over, but
I
mhm.
bet. My least
Yeah.
favorite airframe that I've flown is the Cirrus, and it's because of that stick configuration. I just hated it being like on my left side and like kind of at a weird angle, if I remember correctly. I'm just like, it's beautiful plane. I mean, they're wonderful, but it's just man, it took me a minute. I did a bunch of hours, obviously in a Cessna, of course. I mean that, but my dad still is actually a pilot. He doesn't do it professionally. He's just just a he flew Apaches in the army and stuff, so he kind of carried that over, and then got his civilian like AFFI, or well, I forget what it's called, AFII. Is that skydiving, or is that I don't know. I'm blending the worlds here, but he's a certified instructor. So as soon as I was old enough legally, he was taking me up, and then racked up a bunch of hours with him. I have no idea how many, and then I actually soloed for the first time before I got my driver's license, which was cool. And
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
yeah, and it was like kind of I kind of went outside of the instructor I was working with's like discretion, but it's because the book stuff he wasn't like stoked on, and I was like, I've always just been visual and stick and rudder. I'm like, I'm gonna be a bush pilot in Alaska. Like I don't care about like airspace or whatever. Like that was my mentality, of course, but that's obviously flawed. I was just a punk. But yeah, anyway, I stood no chance. Like there was no way I was making it through those programs, because that was yeah, it was pretty bad. But
You just
anyway.
have to have a really good memory. You don't have to be that smart to be a pilot. It's my secret. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm like, why do I have to memorize this when there's a checklist? Like, I'm just going off. Like, why don't I have to memorize the checklist? It's right in front of me, and you keep telling me that I have to look at it, and I can't memorize it when I'm flying. So obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, I don't know. The whole thing was kind of funny. I wasn't mature enough. That's kind of what it came down to. I just wanted to like
Yeah.
rip around and whatever.
Well, but you did become you said a corpsman in the Navy, right? Is what
Yeah,
you
yep. I was a corpsman.
That's
Yeah,
that's
and that
awesome.
was kind of a needs of the Navy thing. I got lucky in a lot of ways, but as a lot of young 20-year-old men that are relatively athletic and come from a patriotic family desire, I wound up at Buds, and unfortunately wasn't successful there. I would say I was successful. I just didn't make it through. It was honestly like the best time of my life. I had so much fun, and ended up getting hurt, and kind of in a bad low moment made a decision to quit. And then you when you quit there, you go through all this medical, they make sure that you're okay, and you're not going to go like lawn dart yourself off of a building in San Diego or whatever. And um
Right.
the chief corpsman who was in charge of like the sick call or whatever there was like, he looked at me, he looked at my file, and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, I hurt my knee, like I hurt a bunch of other stuff, and unfortunately I quit. And he's like, dude, if he didn't say it like this, but he was like, dude, if you would have waited until the end of tomorrow, we were gonna roll you to the next class. Like that was the plan. We knew you were hurt. We just, you needed
Oh no.
2 days. And I was like, God dang, okay. Well, so I went through this whole like, trying to get reinstated process, and that didn't pan out. So anyway, needs the Navy. They needed corpsmen. So me and a bunch of my really good friends, actually, like my swim buddy, and he ended up being the best man at my wedding, and a bunch of other guys that were like in my boat crew, or like right around my boat crew, dudes I had like come up with through boot camp and Bud's prep. I had known these guys for like 8 months at this point, and we all ended up at corpsman school at the same time, which was like
Really?
a huge problem for the cadre at corpsman school. It was not ideal, and we were certainly rowdy, and definitely broke a lot of rules and pissed a lot of people off. But we all made it through, and all those dudes are still in. Well, not all of them, most of them are still in, and in the community that they wanted to be in to begin with, or at least around it, or in a different community that's like it. So it all kind of worked out for them. And yeah, I just basically decided at the end of my second tour, after having basically extended my enlistment a couple times. I never fully re-enlisted. I just did like a year extension twice, basically. um I decided, I'm good. I was pretty fed up with everything. I had, crushed all the PT tests. I was number one at the command, like beat everybody, all the officers and all the enlisted cats, and like, was like selling cupcakes and doing all the crap I didn't want to do, and like crushing it with like patient care, crushing it with my job and my collaterals, all that crap. And had raised my hand a couple times for deployments, like when we were pulling out of Afghanistan. They were looking for corpsmen, and I was like, my bag's packed, like I want to go. And they didn't send me, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, that was a nail in the coffin. So as soon as my enlistment was up, or when it was approaching, the detailer calls and they're like, hey, what do we have to do to keep you in? And I'm like, well, I've tried to go back to Buds 3 times. That didn't work out. Tried to go to SFAS on the Army, for the Army, for, the Green Berets. And you guys wouldn't let me do that. I'm like, the only way I'll stay in the military is if you allow me to go try out for the Golden Knights. And they were like, well, obviously. And it was kind of tongue in cheek. I'm like, I'm not going to stay in, basically. And they were like, well, you got to talk to the Army about that. And I was like, check. So yeah, I just pulled chocks and got out. And it is what it is. Like, part of me regrets getting out. Part of me is happy I did. I wouldn't be, doing what I'm doing now, or, even where I'm at if I had stayed in. But, it's transitioning out of the military is hard. It's especially, when it's like all you've known for the last, whatever, 7, 8 years. It's like, and people tell you that, but it's like, until you're doing it, you don't really understand. And usually the people that were telling me that were people that were still in. So I'm like, what do you know about getting out? Like, you haven't done
The
it.
outside world.
Yeah. So anyway, it was like, I'm still figuring it out. 3 years removed now. Actually, yeah, 3 years, just a couple days ago removed. So it's
Oh, awesome.
it's been a
Nice.
bit of a process, but
Yeah, it is. It's and you're so right. It's I mean that's a really incredible story, and it's hard when you, like you said, you are very used to something, and the camaraderie that comes with it. And I halfway quit, or partially quit, I guess, and then went back this year. So 15 years in, and I'm gonna do my 20. They're like, oh, they're doing cuts and need people to stop flying. And I was like, oh well, I guess, maybe I'll give someone else the chance and pull chocks. And yeah, then I couldn't do it. I was like, nope, just kidding, I'm coming back. I miss it too. Or I just wasn't ready, call it Stockholm syndrome, whatever you want to say. I just it I think it's just like any job where you have goods and bads, and highs are high and lows are low. But the people are, it's sounds cliche, but that's what makes it. And a lot of these guys I fly with now in my reserve squadron, I mean, we've been flying since the beginning together. And just those relationships you build, and you deploy together and all of that. It's there's not a lot that can compare to that. And I think that's something in the airline world I miss, where you're flying with a different person every single time. And so you're not, you don't have this tight community, like I'm used to. But yeah, so it is tough. It's tough to leave, tough to stay. You just got to make the decision, and then be happy with it either way.
yeah, no, it's sound advice. Sound advice.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're in a good spot, though. I mean, if you can keep pulling both off, that's pretty cool. That seems like the dream kind of gig, like foot in both
Yes.
holes. You're getting best of both worlds. It's I
I
know you still
I
have
feel
to do
very
all the,
lucky. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you still have to do all the admin stuff on the Navy side, but hey, if that's in conjunction with getting to fly, then hey, or teach, I mean, both. I'm sure that's really rewarding. Getting to teach people how to do it is pretty cool. So yeah, good for you. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. Definitely.
So where did speed flying get into all this? Did you just wake up one day, or did you? I mean, obviously in the Wasatch, you're in proximity to it. It's kind of hard to miss, especially these days. But yeah, tell me about how you got into flying speed wings.
Yeah. So yeah, everyone's got kind of an interesting story. I feel like so when I was living in Washington, I've got some friends who paraglide and do some speed flying, and they're trying to talk me into it. And but I'd hear their stories of like, oh, it's most of the time you hike up and you sit there for hours and then the weather doesn't cooperate and then you hike back down and you have to, do it all the time and do it constantly and it kind of consumes your life. And like, I don't know if I'm ready to commit to that, and I didn't really know anything about speed flying. That was just really you live in Washington, and I was up in the Bellingham area, and it's not like here in Utah where you are seeing people and hearing about it all the time. I didn't really know anything about it, and I'm like, oh no, I don't need another activity, another sport. I'm into my skiing and all that. And then it was actually when I went on a Delta trip, and was flying with this awesome girl, Zoe, who is now one of my good friends, and, she grew up in Tahoe ski racing, and she also lives in Park City, and, we just became instant best friends. It made the trip really easy, but she's like, "Oh my gosh, Jess, you have to learn how to speed ride. It is the most amazing thing." She's like, "If you love skiing and you love flying, it combines the best of all the world." She's like, "You've gotta learn." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really know much about it." And like, it sounds awesome, but then she started talking about Val d'Isere. She's like, "You have to go to Val d'Isere." And I'm like, I don't even know anything about Val d'Isere. And she's like, "Next year you're coming to Val d'Isere." And her husband, they got married a year ago at the like ski and fly camp in Val d'Isere, which was pretty
Wow.
cool. So just to give you, they're really into it, and that's how much she loves it. And I was like, well, if you love it that much, I guess maybe I need to check this out. So um, just kind of started doing some research, and it's like, well, I feel like the safest, best way to do this from the people I talked to is to go learn to paraglide first and get my P2, and then, downsize from there. I want to do this safely. I know I didn't know much about speed flying and speed riding, but I knew it was dangerous and I wanted to do it the safe way. And so I got the information about, just kind of talking to some folks here in Utah, and um, heard about this guy Arias here who teaches, and he's kind of looked at his Instagram and everything, and I'm like, wow, he is a badass, like speed rider, speed flyer. I'm like, that's who I want to be one day. That's awesome. It really just kind of like watching that, and then made me watch some more videos of people doing it. I'm like, okay, I'm all in. I want to go out do the speed riding thing. And so I got my P2 with him, to then, try and transition over to the speed side of things. And so I got my P2 about a year ago, and then just wanted to get really comfortable under a big wing. This is all here in Utah, so just kind of went all in. Was flying as much as I could. It's obviously most people know, you're not taking lifts up here, so hiking and flying, is the name of the game. So you can try to get as many reps as possible, but it's hard sometimes. It's challenging. So I tried to get it as many reps as possible at the big wing, and then I got my first, I guess, speed wing, the Arc, Ozone Arc 14, and I was going to take it to the ski and fly camp, in New Zealand that they were doing in August. And they didn't have enough snow, so they canceled the camp. And I'm like, oh well,
Mm.
dang, I just had the time off, really looking forward to it. So it's like, oh, I'll go learn, out in the Alps, because that's the place to learn. You can get the laps in and everything like that. And then went out there, did some paragliding, and then it was like day one of being on the arc where I sprained my ankle, so I had to go home. So
No.
my journey didn't start as I would have hoped. And I had done, I guess I don't want to say that was day one. I did some time on the wing, just like little mini flights and stuff at Point of the Mountain out here in Utah, and did a couple days of speed riding in the spring, in Little Cottonwood Canyon, just to kind of see what it was like. And that's really what hooked me, was the speed riding. I was like, this is just so comfortable for me because I'm a skier, so it just made so much more sense than the being on foot thing. So yeah, I guess, this is a long way of saying I was kind of told about the speed riding, and that's what hooked me. And then after the injury, I, took a little bit to recover. Sprained ankles suck. If anyone's had them, takes a while. And then went back to flying the big wing, and then I actually went back down, or I went down to Saboba, because my friends were like, Saboba's the place to learn to speed fly, like go there. There's this like awesome girl who teaches, this girl Leslie, and
Yeah,
um,
I know
I took
Leslie.
my ARC there, and she let me use. They had some demo wings. I think I flew like a Loki 15. And something else I can't remember, but it was just she was great. It was awesome. I really feel like it clicked a lot there, and you can get a little bit more reps for those who haven't been to Saboba. They take you up in the little side by side, so you're not having to hike and fly every time. It gets you only so far, but you can get more reps in a day, and just kind of really hammered it there, and it just built my confidence back up again and made me excited about it again. And then yeah, this last winter, that's something I feel very fortunate with my Delta job where, I'm so lucky to be able to travel for basically free. So I'm like, I'm gonna spend a ton of time in the Alps and just get laps. And so I was in Val d'Isere and Chamonix for probably a total of 5 to 6 weeks this winter, just
Wow.
lapping and lapping and lapping and lapping. And I mean, talk about a way to learn.
Yeah.
It is the best way if you want to learn how to speed ride. I mean, people with more experience may have a different opinion, but man, it's just to get the laps, get the reps, get all of the experience. I think guys have talked about it there before on the show, but it's just they've got anything from beginner launches and landings to a lot more advanced, and lots of different directions, and good, relatively consistent wins at Val d'Isere, at least. Chamonix, a little bit trickier, but um, yeah, just I feel really lucky. So I got, I mean, probably 200, 250 speed flights in this over the winter.
Wow.
And yeah, that really hooked me. So that's kind of been my journey so far. So
Oh, that's rad. Yeah, I was about to ask, like, if you keep a logbook, how many laps did you get in when you were there this winter? But yeah, 200, 250. That's proper. I mean, that's awesome. I have the I guess the good fortune in that I have cool bosses, so they allow me to take the snowmobile up or get someone to tow me up to the back to the top once the mountain's closed for the day. And if the conditions are good, I'll like speed ride down. So I think I got like 20-ish speed riding laps in this past winter, which is like probably 16 to, well, probably 14 more than last winter because I toured for all of those, and I waited until we
yeah,
were like close to like at the end of the season, so the snow was bad. And it's pretty cool. Like I felt fortunate to get 20 laps. To get 200, I mean, man, and especially in like a 5 weeks total period, like of you being there, that's the dream. That's the dream for everybody, at least on this side of the pond. I'm sure people that live there maybe take that for granted, but hopefully this sheds some light on the fact, because I have talked about this so many times on here. It's like if we had that, it would be so cool, but we don't. So, Americans and
yeah,
or I guess America and our liability is just outrageous. But it we're not going to change that, right? Like our maybe someday, but at least for now, it kind of is what it is. So just got to get on a flight and go to Val d'Isere. That's what it sounds like, at least.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's coming from someone, like I said, who's relatively beginner here. I couldn't recommend that more to anybody. I mean, it really is, to get the reps in, you just to be consistent with something. I mean, I love ski touring more than most people I know, and I love earning my turns and my flights. And um but you just, you get a couple flights a day maybe if you're ski touring, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge here. It really is, and it's unfortunate. I wish they did better at allowing people to take lifts up, but that's not the world we live in. And I say, of course, as I sit here in Park City, Vail Resort, they're not too keen
No.
on anything that's gonna cause liability issues with their spots. So yeah, it's it, again, it's Europe and the Alps. I mean, both winter and summer. I haven't really experience the lift laps to speed fly there in the summer as much. I just got back from Turkey and was able to do a bit of that there, which was pretty cool and special. But
I
yeah, if you
saw
can
that.
travel, man, and you want to learn, that's how to do it.
Is where were you in Turkey? What's that site called? I forget.
Olo Denise.
Ah, okay.
If I'm probably butchering the name, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like this big mountain. It's called Babadog Mountain, and they they have a cable car that goes up like a good amount of the way, but it's like, I mean, it's probably like a 6,000 foot mountain, 2,000 meters or so, and they've got a bunch of different takeoff spots, and you'd land right on the beach, which is pretty rad. And they've got like this whole speed fly land area. I think most people in the sport know about this or have seen videos or that sort of thing, or seen the big compass, on the launch. And it's awesome because for Utah, I mean, man, most of our launches are pretty
Rugged.
rocky and snaggy and a bit rough, and there it's just these dreamy giant concrete pads, and yeah, it was pretty special. So you can get some good laps in there, and they've got buses in town you can just take all the tandems up, and you can hop on one of those.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Was it intimidating on that launch? Like, the one that you were talking about with the compass and it's all it's like, concrete and you're flying all the way. I mean, that mountain is huge. Like I've only seen it in, first person videos, but I'm like, man, that is like a massive, massive flight. Did that intimidate you at all? I mean, obviously you were coming from Valdezir and you put in the time there. There's some intimidating terrain there too, but did you feel any kind of like fear about that visually before you flew it the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I always say like the day that I don't get nervous about, especially about flying a new site, is probably when I need to check myself. So yeah, I was definitely nervous. I took some lessons from the team lab guys out there, and just because I was like, I want a site visit, I want to learn as much as I can, try to learn from the best people in the world. I think that's, how you do it. And learning from different people, I think, is also really important because every single person I've gotten lessons or, learned from, or, friends that I've flown with, I think every single one of them has given me a tip or piece of advice that I hadn't heard before that helped, and so I think it's too bad when people think that they are, they know everything already, because I think there's so much you can learn from everybody. But anyways, yeah, I was that first day going there because I actually went for my SIV course, but I did a little bit of speed flying on the front and back side and in the evenings. But the first day there, it was, well, first of all, it was freezing, which I just stupidly thought Turkey's warm. So back cold weather clothes, and here we are flying into Turkey, and the mountains have snow on them. I'm like, huh,
Oh,
that's interesting. So, you're nervous, and so being cold and nervous doesn't help. So I'm like shivering, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know if I'm cold or nervous or both." But yeah, it was intimidating. And I think one of the tough parts there too is there's so many people at the launch, so many tandems, and everyone, they just want to go, 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 and so you feel a lot of pressure from that,
mm,
and you have to just ignore them and be like, I'm doing my flight and doing my thing and taking my time, like I don't care. So I think that was a bit tough too, just feeling that the pressure on launch, like I'm sure most people have felt before, but yeah, it is just the flights are so long and beautiful. I mean, you just have so much terrain to play with. So if there's anybody who hasn't been out there, it's definitely, I highly recommend. And then SIV is awesome there because you start so high and you stay relatively high, pushing all the way out to the ocean. And I think that's why it's one of the best places in the world to do it, because you have all this altitude below you,
mm.
and the guys are just coaching you from the beach and talking you through everything. And then all the boats are out there if you have to pull your reserve and to bring you back. So it's a pretty cool experience.
That's cool. So you're still actively pursuing paragliding currently?
Um, Not really. I try. I go every once in a while. I really am hooked on the speed wing thing. I think it's important to keep those skills, and there are days and times where the weather where you are just don't work to have a speed wing, and so for me anyways, for people who are a lot more experienced than I am, they can probably make most things work, but there are days for me where I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable doing this flight or this launch or whatever on a speed wing, so I'll take my big paraglider. But I did have like a little bit of an accident out speed riding this past winter in Chamonix, and just realized I need to just learn more about handling a wing, and how to get yourself out of a bad scenario. And I realize SIV is it's tough. I asked them, I was like, can I do this on a speed wing? And they're like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, but there are still, I was hesitant about doing it because I'm like, what, how is learning these skills on my big wing going to translate to the mini wing? Is this worth it? It's expensive. And, all those things. So I was a bit back and forth on it, but like I think just any experience and knowledge you can get on any wing is good, and to see how a wing reacts to spirals and spins and stalls and collapses and auto rotations. There's been plenty of people that have gotten into all these scenarios on a speed wing, and it's, I think, obviously a smaller wing, a wing half the size of a paraglider or smaller, is going to respond and react a lot more differently. But having the baseline knowledge of ways that you can try to recover. You're obviously low to the ground most of the time, but sometimes you aren't. And I think one of the things too, you've talked on the podcast before, and people have differing opinions about it, but the whole bringing the reserve speed flying question, it's something I wanted to get out of SIV, is those times where I am on a smaller wing on really big launches, and you do find yourself high off the ground, even if you're closer to terrain, like the Aguil du Midi. If you're going off the north side, like you're high up there. You may be close to the terrain, but you're up there. And I if something were to happen, that's a long way to fall. And if you do have a reserve, I don't know, will it help? Will it not? I know you talked about the Saboba incident. It probably saved his life, and I think as long as you don't find it too much of a nuisance to carry, there is a time and place for it. And I think that's something important to learn at SIV, is just having that mindset of, okay, I can't fix this anymore. I need to pull this thing. And if there's the 1% chance that it can save your life, it's worth it to me.
Definitely. Yeah. I have one now, flying with it. It, like you said, a little clunky sometimes. Like it's taking a little bit for me to get used to like the, oversized heavy fanny pack, but it, it, I don't know. I feel that, hopefully never have to throw it, but if I need it, I'm going to be really pissed if I don't have it. So I'm definitely flying with that, but that's cool. Yeah. I mean, I think flying nylon in any capacity translates to flying nylon. Like, yeah, I mean, does a paraglider fly differently than a speedwing? Of course. Does a skydiving canopy fly different than the other two? Of course. But like, you're still doing it, and it all, adds up to something. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what that something is, but it does add up. So I haven't actually flown a speedwing since I hung my skis up for the season. I've been flying like mini wing paraglide hybrid Code 18. It's, I'm like kind of right on the bubble of a E and A, E and B with that thing. So in my mind, it's a paraglider. But having dabbled with full size since then, I'm like, okay, it's not quite a paraglider, because those things are like wildly efficient. I mean, it's cool though, because it's opening up a different pathway in my brain, mostly sight picture. Like, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm coming into land for sure. And then I'm like, no, I'm actually not. I still have to make 8 more turns before I even think about landing. Like, there's just, it's the efficiency is, it's mind blowing, but I'm having a ton of fun with it. Still obviously love speed flying. I'm just, I don't know. I've been dealing with like a little bit of like a fear, just from, I'm coming up on a year from getting injured, actually, like in, I don't know, 12 days or something. And I've with skis on my feet, I wasn't worried because I don't have to run and I don't have to worry about, as much, I guess, with my feet. Obviously like decent skier, right? I mean, I work on skis, I put a lot of time in on skis, so I can ski. Um, and I feel really comfortable speed riding, but without skis, I'm like pretty terrified lately to fly anything smaller than like my Freya 14, which is, I would argue it's like kind of a mini wing ish. It's just like super stable and I'm not really worried about it collapsing. So, yeah, I don't know. I've been dealing with that. So, but with that, I've also been like, okay, well, instead of being bummed out and being like, oh, like I'm not speed flying, I'm just like, I'm going to reframe it and be like, no, I'm just going to learn the art of the big wing. And that's kind of what I've been doing. Super fun, very humbling, kind of scary. It's like, it's a big wing up there and the lines are long and I look up, I'm like, that's a big wing. Like, am I going to go to, 20,000 feet if I launch right now, and the answer is no, like you're not, but you are going to go up. So it's, it's just a different animal. But like I said, I think it all translates. So SIV is probably in the future for me if I can figure out when and where. That's kind of the main hang up is the when and the where. But Turkey would be
Yeah,
cool.
totally. Turkey is a pretty rad spot. I know there's some places out in Washington. I've had friends go. I can't remember if it's on Chelan or
Yeah.
there's some out like a lake somewhere that you get towed, but yeah, it's an awesome experience and I think you learn a lot, even if you don't fly big wings very often. I think some of the best pilots on nylon in the world, do both and do everything and don't
Yeah.
just, pigeonhole to one thing. So I think it's pretty cool to have multiple sets of skills. And, like you said, it's the injury thing. It was really nice, after spraining my ankle to go, be like, okay, I can go paraglide, but I can't really, I don't want to try to like commit to like a full sprint or anything like that yet. And you can still fly, you can still do stuff. So yeah, I think it's good to know it all. And there's different scenarios where that comes into play. I mean, I went out speed riding in the Wasatch with a guy this last winter, and he dropped his kids off at the snowbird daycare, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's go speed ride." Just off the kind of the side of Superior where we go sometimes. And he's like, "Oh, don't judge me. I've got this big wing, but I've got this little kid now. So it's like." I just like play it super safe. I'm just gonna like stay pretty high, but he's like, I love that I can still do this. And I mean, he's been flying for like, God, I think he said like 15 or 20. I mean, he
Wow.
did the whole, he's flown a bunch of tiny wings and gone everywhere and all that. And I just thought it was cool that he's like, I don't care. Like, I'm on a big wing. This is how I stay safe and this is my choice. And yeah, it was, he's still getting out there and getting after it doing it. So I totally commend that. I think anything, it's easy to get wrapped up into the, how small is your wing game, but as long as you're out there and doing it and having fun, I think that's what it's all about. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I think big wings are rad. I've been flying in like the flattest terrain. Like it's insane. I mean, there's stuff I've been flying lately where it's like there's no way I would even consider it with any size speed wing. It's just they're just not as efficient, obviously. And I mean, I'm like essentially speed flying, but at like 12 miles per hour, like 10 feet off the ground, flying in these like little like, chill kind of just proxy flying to an extent, but literally going 12 miles per hour. And it's amazing. It's like it's cool, right? Because have I done that on a 9 meter? Like, yeah, like, but I'm not going 12 miles per hour. Like you like see
right,
more
yeah,
and you can kind of like, you get the same kind of visuals, but you're not just, scorching the earth, with your hair on fire, which I mean, then there's a time and place for both, right? And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what path I'm gonna go down in the future, but I do know that like my love of this sport is not going anywhere. And like with all that being said, this podcast is not going anywhere. I'm just enjoying kind of slowing down and like staying healthy, knock on wood, and just kind of just learning something new. Cause like you said, it's like it all matters. It all translates. And there's nothing wrong with flying a big wing when you're used to flying a small wing. It's like in this whole downsized thing. I saw it a lot in skydiving, and I was guilty. Like I wanted to fly the smallest canopy I was allowed to, and I did. It's awesome, right? It's so much fun. Obviously, a little bit different scenario. Obviously, it's just different application, but um, I did fall into that trap too in this sport, but I was like doing it responsibly. I thought, I felt like I was, and I had good like mentors and good people that I trusted that were watching me fly, and they're like, yeah, like you just don't do anything stupid, like just take it easy, and yeah, like you can fly a small wing, sure. And I was fine. So I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here, and I apologize for that. But it's just it's cool that you're still doing both. Obviously, like your heart is in speed flying, and you've vested time and money into it at this point now. But you're still like you still see the importance, and obviously you're a responsible adult. You have two different massive organizations entrust you with millions and millions of dollars of airplane. I wouldn't think that you would be irresponsible in this sport. Like I don't think that's like a switch that people flip. I think you either like kind of have it or you don't, or you learn it the hard way sometimes, or you just kind of mature into it. Like the whole, being responsible and taking your time and stuff, right? Because it's all fun. It's just people see, the greats, ripping down on a 5.9. They're like, oh, like I want to do that. It's like, well, yeah, maybe in like a decade, like like
Yeah.
why do you want to run to your death? Like don't do that. Just take it easy. Enjoy the view. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it it's so easy, I feel I mean, and for people with personalities like me, I think it's important to identify the traits that you have going into sports like this, where I come from a world of going really fast and really low, but it's it's taken me so long to get really good at it. And it's I think it was like I think it was Malcolm Gladwell in one of his books that talks about like becoming you can become excuse me, an expert at anything at 10,000 hours of doing it. And, that's not necessarily just doing it, but it's the studying, it's the practice, for the sport, ground handling, all the stuff that goes into it. And I think it's, a very something that I had to think about going into it. I was like, I've spent my whole life playing keep up with the boys and, trying to be like one of them and be as fast and be as good, and coming into this sport, it's at first, especially starting out paragliding or starting out with a bigger speed wing, you see these guys like you said, ripping on a tiny wing and you're like, oh, I want to go do that. Like I want to be cool like you. And oh, I feel comfortable on this, 14 meter. I'm just gonna keep going down. And it's easy to get caught up with that and caught up in that and just push it too hard too fast. And I think that's where it's talked about so much in the sport where you see a lot of people get injured. And I'm like, I know I'm going to go and try to be as good as these guys who've been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, and that's just not realistic. Even if you can go to Val d'Isere and Chamonix in the Alps in the winter and get laps and laps and laps, you still, it takes time to build a skill set. And in any sport, I mean, it's yes, there are the people, the freaks out there that are, good right away and, pick it up right away. And I think that's awesome. But I think for most of us, things take time. Some of these guys that are the best in the world are, they're like, it took me time, and it does. And I think that's a really important thing to remember and something that I've tried to remember to try and keep myself safe and just to go, go to the basics when I start seeing myself doing things that, it's like, ooh, that was a little scary, or that was a little too low, or that was a little too rowdy, or ooh, I didn't like how the wing reacted here. I had this bad landing. It's like, okay, I need to check myself and go back and maybe fly a little higher, do something a little bit safer, a line that's more comfortable for me, and then just do that comfortable line over and over and over, and then go up to the next step instead of just going all in. I mean, I correlated to like mountain biking in the Pacific Northwest, living there. I mean, you can't really live there without being a mountain biker, I feel like. And I broke my collarbone and separated both shoulders in like the first year and a half of mountain biking there. And it was that exact reason of like all these people there are so good, and they are so sendy. And like, oh, I can do that big rock roll drop, bridge drop, gap jump, at the Whistler Bike Park too. Like, why can't I do that? Of course I can do that. And
Oh,
but you can't because you don't have 10, 15, 20 years of experience like a lot of the people you're riding with. And I think that all translates into flying. You just have to fly your own flight and have fun with it, and if other people are out there sending it, that's awesome. You can all high five each other at the end of it, and have beers or whatever your your drink of choice, and go live to fly another day. And I think that's the most important thing in any extreme sport, is to be able to do it forever. And I think I heard someone talk about, I can't remember what the statistic was, but in the speed flying world, you see a majority of people stop doing it after like 2 years or
mhm.
something, because it's either you get hurt or scared, or it's just that phase in your life where it's like, I'm moving on and I need to be an adult and actually go to work and not worry about injuring myself or whatever it is, and I don't want to be that person that phases out in 2 years. I want to keep doing it because I love it. And so I try to just say like, hey, I'm having just as fun on my 11, 12, 13-meter wing as someone on a 6-meter wing. And it's I think that's a really important thing to remember as someone who's learning.
Oh, for sure. No, and you probably have more flight time on that flight, because you have a bigger wing, you're up longer. It's 6 meters are getting down in 2 minutes. You might be getting down in five, right? I mean, it might not be that dramatic, but it's it's still time and seat, which is really important. That yeah, you said so many amazing things in that. I appreciate everything you just said. I don't know how I don't know how to word this, so I apologize if it comes across wrong. But what is it like being a minority, right? Like as a woman in this sport, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's definitely more dudes, like 20 something year old dudes in the sport than there are women. Obviously, with I'm blanking on the name right now. I can't believe it. That the is it Julie? Her
Yeah, Julia. Yeah.
Julia, yeah, which I need to get on the show also. But what is the name of her company or like organization?
Is it the Women of Speed Flying?
Yeah, her
Or
Instagram
yeah.
page, I guess. I don't know if it's like a company or whatever, but I love that. I love that it like highlights like you like yourself and a bunch of other the rad ladies that are flying and doing it. But I've just noticed like in my own flying that there's never that many women doing it. Like it's always a bunch of guys. And I'm just curious, like, have you run into any scenarios, situations where like people have tried to give you advice or you get like the mansplain or I saw it in skydiving a lot where like a new girl would show up at the DZ who like it has her A license and like all the badass instructor dudes with gators would walk up all like, oh yeah, like let me teach you how to jump. Like not everybody of course, but like I've seen it. I'm wondering because I haven't seen it in this sport. Have you like come across anything weird like that, or is it kind of been chill?
Well, my perception might be a little bit skewed because of my background. I was always like the only woman.
Fair.
And so I think like my my tolerance for mansplaining is probably far different than most. But yeah, there's been times for sure. But I mean, to me, I think it's phenomenal how many women are in this sport. I mean, compared to the tactical aviation world, again, I don't know the numbers, but especially speeder, and maybe it's again, maybe my perception is skewed because I was in Val d'Isere. One of the times I was there was when the Women of Speed Flying event, like right when everyone was kind of getting in for that. But even before that, I mean, there was so many women out there doing it, which I thought was so awesome. And I just had no idea because I don't know if it's more on the speed riding side or maybe it's just because I've I've had done more speed riding flights than speed flying. But at least with over in Europe, gosh, there's a lot of women. It was amazing, and everyone's so supportive and great. And I guess back to your question, there's been times, where it's like I don't know if it's because I don't want to say it's because I'm a woman. I think it's maybe like someone sees someone else like that like needs some help with something, or maybe they see that they're nervous about something, or maybe I ask where they'll come over and be like, hey, you want some advice on this? And I think it's great. I mean, especially here in Utah, you've got this giant wealth of knowledge. I mean, there's so many people who are just so um so knowledgeable about the sport. So like really, and they're really helpful and cool about it, and I haven't really had any like times where I like rolled my eyes, from someone giving me advice about something.
I'm happy
And
to hear
a
that.
lot of times I'll ask. And so I think it's pretty cool, and I'm very open to people coming and giving tips, and even if it is unsolicited. I really think everyone just means well, and they're just trying to help out,
Sure, sure.
which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to set the record straight, I did zero research on how many women actually speed fly, so I could be completely wrong. Maybe there's more women in the sport than there are men. I have no idea. It's just from my perspective, and my perspective is very small because I fly in like the same place and I know everybody, and there's only a couple of women there, and it just, I mean, so Leslie is actually one of them. I know her from, she was spent last summer in Chelan and the summer before that, also, and then does Sabobo in the winter typically, or like the off season for Chelan. But
Yeah.
anyway, no,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't know what I was getting at with that. I'm just curious, like, because when I asked it, I'm like, well, wait a second. Like, you're a fighter pilot in the Navy. You're used to that, like it's kind of like I don't know, but it's really refreshing when I meet or when I come across people like yourself that like are completely badass in those realms. And historically it has been male dominated. Like I'm not like saying that in a negative way. I mean, like, it's really cool,
Yeah.
that like people like you were like, no, like I'm a girl and I don't care. Like I'm gonna go be a fighter pilot and I'm gonna speed fly. And like it is not a limiting factor, and it never should have been. But like, unfortunately in culture, right? Like it was, even though it was completely wrong. But I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is like I'm doing like a hats off to you. Like that what you've
No,
done, what
thanks.
you're doing is amazing. I realize I'm putting my foot directly in my mouth, but I hope that like
No, no,
I
no,
hope that
not at
one makes
all. It's
sense. I hope it makes sense. But yeah,
yeah, no, no, it makes total, and it's a very valid question. And I mean, I don't know the numbers either, but just based off of my limited experience, and I mean, there's definitely way fewer women in this sport than men. I mean, just based off of my limited experience of people I've been around and seen, at all these different areas. And I think it's just like anything, it's changing, and things like the Women of Speed Flying group, and they do this scholarship. I think it's like every year to bring
yeah,
someone else in. And I think that's so awesome. And I mean, that's something that I've tried in both aviation and hopefully for this, to get more women inspired to do it, because I think it is intimidating, especially for people who don't come from a male dominated career field or world in other realms, to be like, oh, all these videos I watch online, it's like all these guys, and I don't want to do. I mean, I even had hesitations. I'm like, oh, do I really need like another like male ego sport in my life, and because it does come with that side of things. But yeah, I mean, everybody's been awesome. It's just it's there, and it's I think it is intimidating to people. It's an intimidating sport in general, and just like any sport or career or anything you do, if you see people like you doing it, you're gonna be more inclined to do it.
sure.
So I think it's just about spreading the word and getting it out there and getting people stoked. Whether it's a girl or a guy, or whoever you may be, to get people excited about something. And again, that's something hopefully with this podcast is it's to get people who didn't know about the sport, or didn't know, or like, oh, I hear about all these guys talk about like sending it and being rad, and doing these like proxy barrel rolls and all this stuff, like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. That seems like scary or intimidating, or I don't even know how to get into it. I mean, I didn't know how to get into the sport, and so just putting the knowledge out there and informing people is so that's I because it is a new sport, compared to a lot of things. It's so new, and so, getting people excited about it is great. It's, you've talked about on episodes before, but, it does come with challenges of bringing more people in, because the more people that do it, it's a numbers game. The more people that do anything, the more people that get hurt, places get shut down. It is a dangerous sport. It is, something to be careful of. So, there's a balance there, but, um, yeah, I guess all that to say that it's totally valid to ask that question. And, all I can say is, from my point of view, it's everyone's been wonderful, guys or girls, super supportive, and I haven't felt like pushed out of it or anything like that, because being a girl, I think it's been pretty great. The people have been pretty awesome so far.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I would assume that that would be the vibe with speed flying, right? Because everybody is so. I mean, it's such a small community. Like I feel like most people at least know of or have a friend that knows everybody. Like it's kind of. I mean, unless there's some ninja somewhere that doesn't have an Instagram and doesn't have any friends that do it, and I mean that's good for
Yeah.
them, right? But I feel like everybody is kind of connected because it's small. I mean, who knows, right? How many people do it? But I wouldn't be surprised if it's like sub 3,000, um, based off no scientific data or research. But like that's just kind of my assumption, right? Just because it's small, it's growing, it's new, and yeah, I mean, if this, a few people have DM'd me the Speed Vector channel at least, and been like, hey, what you're doing is like really cool for the culture, and I'm like, I didn't think about it that way, but I really appreciate you saying that because it, I just opened the door for people like yourself and everybody else that I've had on and future guests to come on and tell their story and just talk, about the sport and how stoked they are on it and how much they love it, how much it's changed their lives. And if that inspires people to get into it, then right on, and that's that's like the point, like it's kind of like the whole
Yeah.
reason I started it. And yeah, I mean it's been fun for sure. But I don't know. It is dangerous though. And it's you just to circle back on your your first kind of few experiences when you sprained your ankle. It would, a lot of people would have tucked their tail and sold the wing and called it good. I mean, sprained ankles are the worst. A lot of times it's worse than breaking one, and having sprained both my ankles and now broken both of my ankles, I can tell you that it depends. It depends on the injury, but the sprained ankle's rough and they hurt. And to have that happen so early on, was there a part of you that was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do this? Or were you like, nope, like I'm doing it. I just got to heal up and get right back on it?
Yeah, it was more the latter. Yeah, it was. I mean, it sucked, but I was like, oh, that was stupid. That was a stupid mistake. Very preventable. And, um, I think I've been lucky of doing extreme sports like my whole life, and really not. I mean, I sprained it, and then I actually like hurt some tendons. I won't get into the technical details, but I just had surgery a couple of weeks ago. But I did that just skiing inbounds,
Mm,
on one of our only powder days this year in Utah. And, it goes to show it could literally be anything that you do. And, um, so, and I mean, I'm not going to stop skiing because of that.
right.
I love it too much. And people have had, I do feel lucky that I had a minor injury. I did have a pretty big crash, and walked away from it totally fine. And just like anybody, have had scary moments or times, or seen things happen, or seen people get hurt. People who are your mentors, people who are in your same, category of experience level, people who are some of the best in the world. It's I don't want to say everyone gets hurt because there are people who don't, but you see it across the board, and it does make you step back and say, Is this worth it?" I think any sport, you have to ask yourself that. And to me, I mean, I guess it kind of circles back to, I think there's a way to do it that can make it more safe. And as long as you're doing that and not pushing yourself over your limits and beyond where you should be, which is what I think happened with both of my incidents, really, or times where I've had a bad landing, or things like that. Is like, oh, should I have been doing that? Should I have been flying? Should I have like tried to land in this spot that I wasn't like totally comfortable with? Like, probably not. And so I think there is a way to do it with a level head, like you talked about. And a lot of, I mean, I'm 36 going on 37 years old, and I have jobs. I just got surgery and I'm on temporary disability. I
Mm.
can't work right now. And it sucks. It really sucks. You're not a kid in school that's like, sick, I get to play Xbox for like 3 months. Like, you don't heal like you used to. You don't bounce off of things like you used to. It sound like an old person talking about this, but I think that's more of like a wake up call than anything, where you're like, I want to do all these things that, these 20-year-old guys can do, but like, is that smart for me in my life right now? And what's important for me? And, is it to get this sick line as low and as fast as possible? Like, I mean, maybe that would be cool, but I might take a slower approach to it than someone else who, you know, doesn't need their legs and their feet to fly an airplane, and their hands and the rest of their body. I mean, I can't just work from home. So,
Right.
um, I think it's all relative for who you are and what you do, and everyone has different risk tolerance levels. And I think one of my mentors in this said something one time, which like kind of stuck with me, and it was kind of cool. And I was like, oh, like, do you think I should, I can't remember what it was. I think it was something here in the Wasatch. I was like, oh, do you think I'm like ready to do this line, or do you think I'm like capable, or it was the conditions? I don't remember what it was. And he's like, are you 100% confident in your ability to do it? I'm like, well, no one's ever 100% confident. And he's like, you should be. And I was like, I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, like, of course you're never going to be 100%, like 100% is up there, but I think that's kind of, for a sport as dangerous as this, you need to be close to that. And I think about like skiing. I've been skiing my whole life, and I feel way more comfortable and confident doing big, gnarly lines on skis than on a speed wing. And I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, if someone was like, oh, let's go ski that, 45, 50 degree like couloir, I'd be like, yeah, sick, as long as it's stable, let's go do it. And like, that's the confidence that I feel like you need to have if you're going to go and proxy fly and do big lines and downsize your wing. You need to be so confident in your abilities that you're not going to get hurt. And listening to these guys who are the experts and the pros at this sport, talk about like doing something over and over and over, and that's how you get good at it. And I think that holds true, and you don't start right off the bat of being like, I'm going to go jump off of, I don't know, uh the midi and Chamonix on my first day on speed riding. Like, no, of course no one would hopefully ever do that, but you have to take those steps to get there. And I think anyone who's been injured, it's you're going to take a step back when it happens and be like, why did this happen? What was I doing? Was I pushing it too hard? Maybe it was just something completely out of your control, because that happens too, and it's unfortunately part of the game. And you got to take those punches, and that's the risk you take. But to me, I guess it's a long-winded way of saying that to me it's worth it, because I love it. It's combining all of the things that I love to do. And um with the background in aviation, bringing knowledge of weather and how an airfoil works, and glide ratios, and all, reading terrain, all of this stuff, I think is just such an amazing thing, and why I got so addicted to it, and why I went so hard in the paint on learning how to do it because I really did fall in love with it because of those things. And, knock on wood, hopefully I've learned some good hard lessons and can take that to my future self, just like anybody with the injury thing.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I mean it's a silly question, right? Like rudimentarily, but what everything you just said is why I asked it, right? It's like to get that answer because I mean, you nailed it. Like 10 out of 10 nailed it. I mean, it's you wouldn't quit doing like skiing because you hurt yourself skiing. Of course not, right? Like you've been skiing your whole life. I also been skiing my whole life. If I hurt myself skiing, I would still ski. It's the same thing with flying. Like the risk is still there no matter what. I mean, skiing's dangerous, you know? I mean, I see it every day. Like I scoop people up every day. Like bad injuries, people that you wouldn't expect it, you know? It's like, oh, in places you wouldn't expect. Like shit happens. It happens everywhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you know? People get hurt driving. Like people die, right? I mean, it's like every day.
Yeah.
Right? So like living in fear is not the move. But there is something about like leaving the ground that's not natural to humans, you know, that adds a little extra twist. It's like for some reason skiing doesn't seem as dangerous or scary because usually unless you're jumping off stuff or hitting jumps, like you're not leaving the ground, you know, but then you add this nylon and then you're doing this thing and it's like people look at it like from an outside perspective being like, oh yeah, that's so dangerous. It's like, well, everything's dangerous, you know. The only guarantee that we have in this life is that it ends at some point. You know, you don't know when that is, so why would you not do the stuff that you love? And that's um I'm glad that, if it was just a sprained ankle and you were all good and you stayed with it, but obviously you being who you are, you know how to meet adversity and push through it. Like you've been tested, I'm like I don't know what kind of training you went through, but I can tell you like it was in the Navy and it was hard. Like and you did it and you're still probably meet adversity every day. Everybody does, right? So that's really cool. Where what do you want to do with speed flying? Like where do you want to take it? Do you have goals? I mean, short term, long term, or are you just
Um,
in it?
yeah, well, gosh, again, I feel so lucky to have done the things I've done already in this short period of time. Gosh, I remember like my first trip ever to Chamonix, back in the day and seeing people flying, off of Mont Blanc or, flying down the Bosons Glacier and like all these things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like maybe someday I could do that. And then, I got to do it this year and I feel like I got to like see all of these incredible places and meet so many of, my idols in the sport. I've been so lucky, but I think, I just like anybody, I wanna progress and learn and do it safely and not get hurt. I think it's for me, the ultimate is combining my love of skiing and love of flying, and that's what speed riding is. And I had a trip out to Washington since I go there all the time for the Navy. Went out this past spring right after going to Valdez, Alaska, which I go to every year, and in both places, which I've skied a million times, but I brought my speed wing and I was able to speed ride these lines that, and to me that's like what I wanted out of learning about this sport is, going up and taking a speed wing and, assessing the winds and using your knowledge of snow and combining all of those things together and then getting to see the side of these places that you may have skied a bunch before, but now you get to fly it and, speed ride it or whatever is really where I wanna keep going with it. I have so much I need to learn still, so much, and, um, I think that's where I see myself going is just going to these places that I love to ski and incorporating a wing with it and getting to access more terrain that I maybe couldn't have without a rope and a ton of gear, and it's yeah, you're trading that for a wing, but, it's pretty special to be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna, ski down this little bit and then go fly over, this glacier over here," and then, I mean, it's like a superpower, it really is. It's really special, and I just wanna keep learning and get to a point where Um, I can say, I feel nearly 100% confident in what I'm doing and safe and um, making really good decisions and not progressing above my limit so that I can keep doing it forever.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great goal. And I mean, that's awesome advice too. Like you should be 100%. I've never thought of it like that, but I understand the point. Like it, confidence is great, but you just got to back it up with, knowledge and skill and repetition, right? You don't, you never rise to the level of the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. And like that goes for everything, right? But especially with this stuff, it's like if you haven't put in the time and you haven't done the reps and you haven't done the homework and you don't understand all the stuff that goes into it, then yeah, it could be a coin flip. But I guess the objective would be to make it so that it's not. Like if something weird happens, some like act of God while you're flying, then yeah, I mean that sucks, right? But just controlling everything you can control and being as current and as knowledgeable and everything that you can be, like that's that's the name of the game right there. That's what I think everybody is striving for, whether they know it or not. So sound advice. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And hopefully one day we can, yeah, I know they kind of started the speed mode thing here in Salt Lake, and I'm like,
Yeah.
because
What's going on with that?
me and a lot of my friends and some friends that I have in this sport, we love the like mountain races and the ski touring races and
Yeah.
ultras and all that stuff, and to be able to combine flying with those things, I guess this is my little quip for that. But hopefully we can get that figured out someday because I think that would be a really cool thing to add. It's I I get that there's the side of like, oh, you shouldn't like push it to this, to where you're being competitive and now you're pushing it, now it's dangerous. But I think there's like a really cool way of doing it. I mean, like the X Alps, but with speed wings, and
Yeah.
it's somewhere like Utah is like, God, an amazing place for it, where you have all these hike and fly spots, and to like bring the community get together, even if it's just once a year, to go and have some like friendly competition or some type of event to get everyone together, I think would be really cool. So, I
Yeah.
guess that's my side note.
No,
Hopefully we see that happen someday.
I am all for it. And I mean, shoot, like paragliding, yeah, there's hike and fly comps like Red Bull X Alps, super gnarly. Like that is a gnarly, if people listening to this have not watched that, you need to, because it's like the best paraglide pilots in the world launching in absurd locations, landing in even more absurd locations, like in all conditions. I mean, these guys are and gals are like hammering it. I mean, it is very impressive. The argument where like, yeah, if you have competition in speed flying, people are going to get hurt. It's like, well, there's competition in everything. So like, why would we not? So the speed mode thing is rad. I mean, they were on the cover of USPA magazine, like, I don't know, a year ago now. And um, I was on their website recently. And side note, I've gone like full ultralight nerd, like full ultralight nerd. I've got a ultralight harness. The code P is, it's not quite ultralight, but it's pretty light. And then I even got like, I've been rocking my Black Diamond Vapor helmet flying now. Like my GoPro weighs like 4 times as much as that helmet. It's so awkward, but and just to put it in perspective, like before that, I was speed flying in swoop pants with my camera fly helmet, and I was like full swoop, CP nerd, and it's funny to like grab the hyperlight backpack with the ultralight harness and pseudo ultralight wing and the vapor helmet and think I'm like running up a mountain or something pretty slow right now, but trying to walk up mountains right now basically. I feel better with ski boots on than I do without, which is so funny. Like I did no PT.
Coming from a true patroller.
Well, no, my ankle just doesn't work. Like I did no PT
Oh
over
yeah.
the winter, right? So like I got hurt in
Mhm.
June and whatever, like the long story, and then did PT until I started skiing in like December. It was super late this year. You guys too, like no snow, and then did no PT throughout the winter, and then all of a sudden it's May, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not wearing ski boots anymore, and oh, like this actually really sucks. Like trying to go do stuff in the mountains. I'm like, man, I gotta do some PT. Anyway, yeah, no, that was a huge rabbit hole. That you see how my brain works here. And if you listen to the show, you probably already knew it. Like I'm all over the place, but I keep you on your toes. But yeah, no, I my fingers are crossed for more like hike and fly, speed fly comps. That'd be cool, or events. Even it doesn't have to be like, everyone gets a participation trophy. That's fine too. But it'd be cool to
Yeah.
see more stuff like that. I'm for it.
Yeah.
What?
Totally. Yeah. I think just like even seeing like the Women of Speed Fly event, getting everybody together from all over the world, it's so cool. And like you said, this community is so small. Just to do more things like that to get people together because so many of us know each other, and I've only been doing it for 6 months or something. And it's like, I feel like you see these people who are like, I know you either through, social media or through word of mouth. And it's so tiny. And I just think it's like, it'd be such a cool opportunity to get folks together more often. Like you said, doesn't have to be a competition. It just can be something fun, bring costumes and whatever, I
Yeah.
don't care.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a great idea. I think you could be the one that makes that happen. You never know. Someone's got to do it. It could be you. Could be you.
Someone's got to do it. Maybe that'll be my healing from my injury plan. I'll plan out some events to get everybody on board. So yeah,
I
be
like it.
cool.
I like it. Well, Jess, this has been so much fun. I appreciate your time and you being willing to come on and put yourself out there a little bit and kind of, like it's tough. It's tough, and I'm in the same position. I've only been doing this for a few years. Like I'm not Joey. I'm not Pat Hennessy, right? Like I'm not the Jedi guy, but I aspire to be, right? And like I just like anything else, like aspire to be the best that you possibly can be, and yeah. So anyway, thank you for coming on here. Do you have any parting words or any more knowledge, wisdom that you want to impart? You got your
No,
flying lady?
I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing me talk if you're listening to the end of this, but no, I appreciate you having me, and yeah, I hope to see you all out there sometime, maybe in Washington. Yeah, it's super cool. Lots of similarities. So yeah, I super appreciate it, and hope someone got something out of this. That's all I could hope for, and I'm sure somebody did. So
Well, if
yeah,
nobody
look
else did,
forward
I
to
did. So it's all good.
yeah. Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Of course. Yep. Heal up, and I'll yeah, hope to fly with you someday. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds great.
Right on. Well, talk to you soon.
All right.